Noah Mercer sat stiffly at the long oak table, the low murmur of conversation swelling around him. The dining room was thick with the scent of roast chicken and his mother's favorite vanilla candles, but he barely noticed. Tonight wasn't just about celebrating a milestone. It was about unveiling a betrayal. Noah's hands were steady on his lap, even as his heart hammered against his ribs. Across the table, Elise stood up, lifting her glass and tapping it lightly with a fork. The sharp clink cut through the room's laughter like a blade. All eyes turned to her, smiling in that innocent, oblivious way only the betrayed can manage. Noah didn't smile back. He caught the subtle brush of Elise's hand against Cody's arm, an electric flicker most would miss, but not Noah. Cody, his younger brother, shifted in his seat, pretending nonchalance. Noah tracked every twitch, every stolen glance. Months of surveillance had honed his instincts razor sharp. They thought they were in control. They thought tonight would be the beginning of their carefully crafted narrative, star-crossed lovers who simply couldn't deny fate. They had no idea Noah had rewritten the ending. As Elise opened her mouth to speak, Noah leaned back slightly in his chair, a quiet observer. His trap was already set. In just a few minutes, the truth would hit harder than anything they could have imagined. Noah had always believed in steady things: loyalty, family, hard work. It was the foundation his parents had built their lives on, and he carried it into adulthood like an inherited blueprint. He met Elise at a charity auction supporting pediatric cancer research. She was vibrant and disarmingly charming, laughing too loudly at his dry jokes and challenging him to a bidding war over a bottle of rare whiskey. Within a year, they were married under a canopy of autumn leaves in Boston Commons, a small ceremony full of promises he thought would be kept forever. Their early years together felt like the realization of something rare and solid. Elise brought spontaneity into Noah's structured world, dragging him to late-night jazz clubs, booking weekend trips without telling him the destination. In return, Noah anchored her when life felt overwhelming, reminding her she didn't have to keep running from place to place. They bought a cozy brick townhouse in Beacon Hill and spent Sunday mornings on the balcony, drinking coffee and planning a future that, at the time, seemed endless. Marriage wasn't perfect, of course. Elise's impulsiveness sometimes clashed with Noah's need for order. She thrived in chaos. He needed predictability, but they learned to meet in the middle. Or at least, Noah thought they had. He believed love was a choice you made every day, an act of maintenance, not magic. When Elise came home exhausted from running events, or when they argued over bills, Noah always chose her, quietly, unwaveringly. He never imagined she might choose someone else. When Cody came back to Boston, after another failed freelance stint in Chicago, it was Noah who suggested he move in temporarily. It's family, he had told Elise, brushing aside her initial hesitation. Back then, the idea of Cody living under their roof felt like a temporary kindness, not a loaded invitation. Noah never once suspected that opening his home would be the first small crack that lets something toxic seep in. In hindsight, maybe he should have paid more attention to how easily familiarity could twist itself into something else, but at the time, he was too busy believing in the life they were building, believing in the myth of steady things. Cody Mercer had always been the wild card in the family. Where Noah was disciplined and steady, Cody was reckless and restless, chasing freelance gigs and half-finished dreams from city to city. He had a magnetic charm about him, the kind that made people forgive his chronic lateness, his missed deadlines, his casual betrayals. When he showed up at Noah's doorstep 2 years ago, duffel bag in hand and a sheepish smile on his face, Noah didn't hesitate. Family didn't turn its back, no matter how many times Cody had stumbled. At first, having Cody around the house brought a strange, almost nostalgic energy. He cracked jokes over dinner, challenged Noah to late-night video games, and regaled Elise with stories from his chaotic life. Noah was grateful, in a way. Cody seemed to shake Elise out of the stress that had been weighing on her. She laughed more, smiled easier. If anything, when Elise offered to help Cody find gigs through her event planning contacts, Noah had even felt a swell of pride. His wife and brother, working together, supporting each other. What could be more natural? Looking back, Noah could pinpoint the moments when things started to shift. The way Cody and Elise would exchange glances over inside jokes. The 2 long conversations in the kitchen when they thought he wasn't paying attention. But at the time, Noah dismissed it all. Trust wasn't just something he gave, it was something he lived by. He refused to believe that Cody, his brother, or Elise, the woman who promised forever, would ever betray him. The idea was so unthinkable that even when the signs flickered at the edges of his vision, Noah turned his eyes away. The warning signs were small at first, easy to overlook, especially when you wanted to trust. Noah noticed Elise laughing at Cody's jokes in a way she hadn't laughed with him in months, the kind of laughter that tilted her head back, careless and open. He chalked it up to the stress she carried from work and the comfort of family. Cody, after all, was a charmer, always good at pulling people out of bad moods. It wasn't unusual, Noah told himself, not alarming, not worth mentioning. Then there were the errands that took longer than they should have. Elise would run out for groceries and come back hours later, saying she bumped into Cody at a cafe or helped him look for a new camera lens downtown. They started texting more often, inside jokes Noah wasn't part of, casual plans made without him. Once he walked into the living room to find them sitting too close on the couch, heads bent over Cody's phone, laughing at something that fell silent the moment he entered. A flash of guilt maybe crossed Elise's face, but it disappeared before Noah could be sure. Family barbecues became uncomfortable in ways Noah couldn't name. His mother would smile and say, "It's nice how well Elise and Cody get along," without catching the tension twisting in Noah's gut. Friends teased Cody about how lucky he was to have a sister-in-law who babied him so much. Noah laughed along, feeling foolish for the prickle of unease under his skin. He told himself again and again, family was messy, unpredictable, but not malicious, not this. The shift was gradual, like a slow leak he couldn't quite locate. Noah would find Elise sitting alone on the porch after Cody left, staring into the dark with a look he didn't recognize. She would kiss him goodnight, but it felt obligatory, distracted. Still, he stayed silent. Love, Noah believed, meant trusting when it was hard, not just when it was easy, so he swallowed the doubts, buried the discomfort, and convinced himself that the cracks he felt underfoot were nothing, certain that if he just held steady, everything would realign. He had no idea that the real damage was already done. The discovery wasn't some dramatic moment, no sudden reveal, bathed in shouting or slammed doors. It happened quietly, almost casually, on a rainy Thursday evening. Noah was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through Elise's tablet to check their shared calendar. She had left it open after finalizing details for an event. When he switched tabs, an unfamiliar email account blinked on the screen. A chain of messages between her and Cody, tucked neatly away from their main inboxes. Noah didn't mean to pry. His thumb froze over the screen, the air around him thickening. The messages weren't ambiguous. They weren't innocent. Noah read, in clinical disbelief, lines that should have shattered him. Cody recounting the night they couldn't stop. Elise replying that she dreamed about him every night. Plans made for secret hotel stays while Noah worked late. The language was intimate, raw, reckless. Noah scrolled through months of correspondence. The numbness that spread through him wasn't anger. It was something colder, heavy. Closing the tablet slowly, Noah sat in silence for nearly an hour. He didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. Instead, he stared out at the rain running in crooked lines down the window, trying to reconcile the life he thought he had with the one he was now staring at. Every memory felt altered, as if someone had gone back and rewritten the margins of his life story, scribbling betrayal. When Elise came home that night, soaked from the downpour, she smiled at him in that familiar, easy way. She kissed him on the forehead, asked about his day, and started telling him a story about a client's meltdown over flower arrangements. Noah nodded along, murmuring answers where appropriate, watching her with new eyes. It was like studying a stranger wearing the face of someone he used to know. She moved through the house with such practiced normalcy that it made Noah's stomach turn. That night, lying beside her in bed, he realized something with absolute clarity. There would be no confrontation. Not yet. If he was going to respond, he would do it on his terms and with evidence that could never be denied. Noah approached his next steps with the same precision he used at work. Emotional chaos wasn't his strength. Methodical strategy was. He started simply, logging timestamps whenever Elise claimed she was working late or meeting clients. Quietly, he cross-referenced her locations with financial records, phone GPS pings, and hotel booking receipts he found tucked into their shared email trap. He was building something larger, something undeniable. Emotion would not be his weapon. Evidence would. He bought a second phone, a burner, one Elise and Cody would never know about. On it, he stored backups of everything, screenshots of their messages, copies of bank statements, photographs of receipts. Noah also started casually snapping pictures of interactions between them when they thought he wasn't looking. Cody's hand brushing Elise's lower back, the way they leaned into whispered conversations at family gatherings. It wasn't just the affair he was capturing, it was the careful construction of a shared lie, a second reality they had created together while still pretending to honor the first. As weeks passed, Noah realized the deception wasn't contained to their personal lives. Cody had borrowed money from Noah under the guise of starting a photography business, money that Noah now traced to hotel bills and secret weekends. Elise had used their joint credit card for business expenses that were, in truth, thinly veiled getaways. They weren't just betraying him emotionally, they were stealing from him financially, robbing him under the banner of trust. Each discovery hardened Noah further, chiseling away whatever lingering hope he had for understanding or forgiveness. Knowing he needed an expert to validate his findings, Noah reached out to Vincent Cole, a private investigator known for airtight infidelity cases. Vincent was blunt, but impressed by what Noah had already gathered. "Most people come in here with suspicions," he said, flipping through Noah's neatly organized folders. "You came in with a damn indictment," Vincent advised him, to keep expanding the file, particularly emphasizing evidence that proved not just the affair, but the intent to deceive everyone around them. In court, or out of it, Vincent said, intent hits harder than circumstance. The work became almost therapeutic. Every new file, every neatly labeled document gave Noah a sense of control he hadn't realized he'd lost. He wasn't just reacting anymore, he was planning. Quietly, carefully, he mapped out the entire trajectory of their betrayal, from first inappropriate texts to the weekends Elise had worked late but really spent in Cody's arms. He was building a case so airtight that, when the time came, there would be no arguments left, no denials possible. Only the truth, stark and absolute, standing tall above the rubble of their lies. Noah's first attempt at confrontation was subtle. He left a browser window open on their shared laptop, an old hotel confirmation email Cody had carelessly forgotten to delete. He waited to see if Elise would acknowledge it, confess even a sliver of guilt. Instead, she closed the laptop with a smile, kissed Noah on the cheek, and asked what he wanted for dinner. If she had noticed the evidence, she chose to ignore it, confident that Noah's loyalty would keep him from questioning too deeply. It was a cruel but calculated misstep on her part. The next attempt was more direct. Noah casually mentioned that Cody seemed unusually close to her lately. Elise's eyes flashed with something ancient, maybe fear, but her voice remained calm, almost pitying. "You're imagining things," she said, laughing softly. "You're working too hard. You need to relax." Her dismissal was smooth, effortless, and for a moment Noah almost doubted himself. Almost. Gaslighting came wrapped in kindness sometimes, and Elise wore it like a second skin. She spun concern into accusation, making Noah feel foolish for even asking. Cody, for his part, played along perfectly. He continued showing up at family events, pulling Noah into casual brotherly banter, buying beers after work like nothing was wrong. When Noah tried to steer conversations toward awkward territory, asking Cody if he was seeing anyone new, for instance, Cody would deflect easily, grinning that he was together. Elise and Cody were masters at pretending. Realizing that subtlety would get him nowhere, Noah withdrew. He stopped testing, stopped hinting, stopped inviting the lies. They had built their house of cards carefully, after all. They would never topple it on their own. If he wanted to bring them down, he would need to strike cleanly, publicly, without warning. From that point forward, Noah smiled when expected, nodded at the right moments, and kept gathering evidence. Let them think they had won. Let them believe he was blind. The truth, when it landed, would leave them no room to hide. Planning the exposure became Noah's quiet obsession. Every spare moment he wasn't at work or faking normalcy at home, he was building the perfect reveal. It couldn't be messy or emotional. It had to be surgical. He organized the evidence into email packets carefully tailored for each family member, highlighting not just the affair, but the betrayals specific to them. Financial theft, false alibis, deliberate manipulation. He wanted there to be no room for sympathy when the truth came out, no convenient excuses for Elise or Cody to hide behind. When Caroline Abbott, the attorney he had consulted, reviewed his plan, she nodded approvingly. "Most people come in here swinging with raw emotion," she said. "You're coming with a guillotine." She advised him to time the release carefully, a moment when Elise and Cody would be fully exposed, surrounded by the very people they had deceived. When Noah received the invitation to his mother's 60th birthday dinner, he knew immediately it would be public, undeniable, and final. In the days leading up to the dinner, Noah triple-checked everything. He created backup drives, scheduled the emails for simultaneous delivery, and rehearsed what little he would need to say. This wasn't about vengeance, it was about truth. They had written a false story, painting themselves as victims of circumstance, and Noah was going to burn their narrative to the ground. No arguments, no tears, just the undeniable, documented truth flashing across every screen at that dinner table. As far as Noah was concerned, the only thing left was to watch them crumble. The night of the dinner, Noah dressed carefully, choosing a navy suit Elise once said made him look steady. He arrived at his parents' house on time, a bottle of wine in one hand and a quiet certainty in his chest. The living room buzzed with laughter and warm conversation, oblivious to the storm gathering just beneath the surface. Elise and Cody were already there, seated side by side, looking every bit the dutiful wife and charming brother. Noah greeted them both with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Dinner passed in a blur of safe topics, new jobs, vacation plans, gossip about distant cousins. Noah played his part perfectly, raising toasts, laughing on cue, blending into the backdrop of his own unraveling life. When dessert arrived, he saw the shift in Elise's posture, the subtle stiffening as she nudged Cody. It was time. Elise rose, tapping her glass for attention, her voice trembling just enough to seem vulnerable. She thanked everyone for coming, praised Noah for being an amazing man, and then, with a shaky breath, dropped the bomb. She and Cody had fallen in love. They hadn't meant for it to happen, but sometimes life was complicated. A stunned silence fell over the table. Forks clinked to a halt against plates. Noah let it stretch for a beat longer than necessary before clearing his throat. "If everyone could check their phones," he said, voice steady, "I sent you something important." Around the room, family members hesitated, then obediently reached for their devices. One by one, the expressions shifted from confusion to horror to anger as they opened the emails Noah had prepared at stunningly messages, financial records, a full map of Elise and Cody's lies. Cody leaned forward, his face blanching. "This isn't what it looks like," he stammered, voice cracking. Elise's eyes darted frantically around the room, searching for an ally and finding none. Noah's father was the first to speak, voice low and dangerous. "You stole from your own brother," he said to Cody. "And you," he added, turning to Elise, "sat at our table and smiled in our faces while plotting this." Accusations flew, some loud, some whispered, but Noah stayed silent, watching the carefully constructed illusions shatter like cheap glass. By the time Noah stood to leave, the room was chaos behind him, Elise sobbing into her hands, Cody stammering half-truths that no one wanted to hear. Noah felt no satisfaction, no triumphant surge, just a quiet, clean detachment. The truth had done exactly what he intended. It had spoken louder than any confrontation ever could. He didn't need to argue. He didn't need to stay. The damage was complete, and he walked away without a single glance backward. Noah didn't return any of the frantic calls or texts that flooded his phone that night. He let them pile up, Elise's desperate apologies, Cody's half-hearted explanations, even his mother's shaken, heartbroken messages. He needed space, not noise. Early the next morning, he filed for divorce through Caroline Abbott's office, sending Elise the papers by courier. The evidence had already spoken. There was nothing left to salvage from the ruins they had created. Within days, word spread through their extended family and social circles. Whatever story Elise and Cody had planned to spin crumbled before it ever found traction. Friends who once adored Elise distanced themselves quietly. Family members who might have defended Cody fell into embarrassed silence. One of the truth ripple outward, dismantling the lies without him lifting another finger, was enough. He moved out of the Beacon Hill townhouse and into a small apartment overlooking the Charles River, a clean, open space that didn't carry the weight of betrayal in its walls. When Noah signed the final divorce papers 3 months later, Caroline asked him if he felt victorious. He thought about it for a moment, then shook his head. "Not victory," he said quietly, "clarity." It wasn't satisfaction he craved. It was freedom from the lies, the doubt, the hollow version of love Elise had offered him. That night, standing on his new balcony with the city lights spread out before him, Noah felt something he had. The truth had cost him a marriage and a brother, but in return, it had given him back himself. Noah spent his first night in the new apartment surrounded by silence. No faint sound of Elise's laughter in the next room, no Cody's heavy footsteps on the stairs, just the steady hum of the city outside his window and the soft creak of unfamiliar floorboards beneath his feet. He unpacked slowly, carefully, placing each item in its new home as if reassembling parts of himself. There were no framed wedding photos to hang, no shared mementos to dust off, only the things that truly belonged to him, stripped clean of history. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long streaks of gold across the Charles River, Noah stood by the window and let the quiet settle fully into him. This wasn't how he imagined freedom would feel. There was grief, yes, but also an undeniable lightness. For the first time in what felt like years, he wasn't pretending. There were no lies left to navigate, no masks to wear. Tomorrow would come, blank and unfinished, waiting for him to write the next chapter without anyone else's betrayal staining the pages. And for the first time, Noah was ready to begin. Noah's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest strength isn't found in confrontation, but in patience, clarity, and truth. When trust is broken, it's tempting to lash out, to demand answers that only bring more pain. Instead, Noah chose a different path. He armed himself with the undeniable truth and let the evidence speak louder than any outburst ever could. His journey teaches us that when betrayal strikes, the best weapon is not revenge, but self-preparation. Sometimes the real victory is walking away with your dignity intact and your future unwritten by anyone else's lies. If Noah's journey resonated with you, if you believe in the quiet power of truth over chaos, then don't keep this story to yourself. Like this post to show your support for Strong. Subscribe so you don't miss more stories that dive deep into human resilience and quiet strength. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that even after betrayal, a new, better chapter is always possible. Your story is yours to write. Make it fearless